Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to this November 14th, 2023 meeting of the Mayor and Board of Commissioners. Can I get the roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Braun?
Here.
Commissioner Kleiner?
Here.
Commissioner Pearson?
Here.
Commissioner Warnick?
Here.
Let the record show you do have a quorum.
Will you rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, I don't know if you want for the viewing audience to let them know Commissioner Warnick is virtual.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commissioner Warnick is joining us virtually. Dave, you can hear us okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. Today, in light of a prayer, I'd like to have a moment of silence for the family that lost almost everything today in a house fire in Octorara Lakes. So if we could just have a moment of silence for them. Thank you. On behalf of our board, we send our deepest condolences to them and to their family for all of their loss today. You have a revised agenda. Town Administrator, do you have that?
Yes, it's part of the consent agenda. So you would, if you would like, you would make a motion to pass A, B, and actually C. There's a typo there with A, B, and C. The revised agenda is, we were originally talking about presenting an ordinance on cannabis. I'm going to explain that. I've taken it from an ordinance down to just a discussion item on the document itself. And that's essentially the change.
Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
I make a motion.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right. The upcoming town meetings, do you have that, Town Administrator?
That would be, the next town meeting is December 12th, 2023, and then the following meeting would be January 9th, 2023.
All right. And we can proceed into the public presentations. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Tonight, we are gathered to swear in two of our recently re-elected commissioners. And I just have a couple of comments on that. Today, together, we're going to celebrate the recommitment of these dedicated individuals to the principles of public service, integrity, and the betterment of our society. The re-election of these officials is a testament to the trust and confidence bestowed upon them by the community in which they serve. As we embark on this swearing in, let us reflect on the significance of their continued commitment to our public service and the responsibilities they bear in representing the wills and aspirations of our community. I'd like to ask the clerk of the Cecil County Circuit Court, Charlene Nordicola, to come up and proceed with the swearing in. Commissioner Braun.
I don't want the peppermints in the picture.
If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Pauline Braun, do swear or affirm
I, Pauline Bryan, do swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution
and support the Constitution
and laws thereof,
and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of Town Commissioner
execute the office of Town Commissioner
according to the Constitution
according to the
and
Constitution
laws of this state.
and laws of the state.
Congratulations. I just need you to sign here and put your address there.
I guess it's my turn.
It is. You've done this a few times.
Yes, a few we've done this, haven't we?
Should know this by heart.
I almost can't. I was gonna.
Please repeat after me. I, August Pearson, do swear or affirm
I, August Pearson, do swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution
and support the Constitution
and laws thereof,
and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of Town Commissioner
execute the office of Town Commissioner
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and laws of this state.
and laws of the state.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. She goes on
Travis, how many terms is this now that I've been doing this?
Long time. Thank you, Ms. Nordico. We appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Have a happy Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas.
Absolutely, you too. Thank you.
You okay?
Yes, a number of years.
I don't want to Bob Fisher now.
Changed at work.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move forward into new business. But before we do that, I do want to send, on behalf of Commissioner Kleiner and Commissioner Warnick, a sincere congratulations to Commissioner Braun and Commissioner Pearson. It's an exciting time for our community. We have a lot of exciting projects coming before us. A lot of years of work has brought us to this time. So it's exciting to have you both back on board. So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, and under new business, ordinance 2023-15, the stipend for appointed officials. Town administrator, do you have that?
Yes, and for the folks, for Commissioner Warnick and the town attorney, I'm gonna share my screen so they can see what I'm referring to. So what you have before you is ordinance 2023-15. And essentially what this is, if you're good with this, we can read this into the minutes of the meeting. This is an ordinance that basically closes the loop on how we provide basically a stipend for members of our planning commission and board of appeals and other boards that members of the community that are appointed to boards, they volunteer. And back in 2021, the town decided, like other towns have done, to start providing sort of a stipend to them or compensation for their time. We passed a resolution back in 2021 saying that we were going to compensate those board members $30 a meeting, and we were going to do it in the same format that the mayor and commissioners are done, in reference to how it is cited in Chapter 9 of the Town Code. And I think it's important to take a step back here again to a quick refresher of how the structure of town government essentially is set up. You have a town charter that basically, from a 10,000-foot view, basically identifies what a town is empowered to do as part of their charter. In our town charter, it does suggest that the elected body, one, can be compensated for their time, and that they can decide to compensate other people, whether it be employees or volunteers serving on boards. And as we've talked about before, the town charter basically creates the foundation of how the town operates, and the initiatives that are spelled out in the town charter are spelled out even in more detail in the town code. And then the town code might make references to certain provisions being done by a resolution because those provisions can change as needed. And so instead of having to go through a charter change to do some of this stuff, the law allows you to make some of these changes through a resolution. So the point being, the charter says you have people serving on a planning and zoning commission. The town code spells out who can serve on that planning commission and Board of Appeals. It also says that those members can be compensated in accordance to Chapter 9, which is how our finances are laid out. And Chapter 9 says the compensation will be determined from time to time by resolution of the board. So the reason why we're here tonight is that we want to close the gap on a discrepancy in that Chapter 9 talks about compensating the mayor and commissioners, but it does not talk about compensating the way we're going to compensate members of the planning and zoning board, and then any other boards that might be decided by an elected body at that time that they should be compensated for serving on those boards. So that is what this ordinance is. If you are okay with this, I can read the salient points into the record and tell you what the change is.
Please do so. Thank
Okay.
you.
So you have ordinance 2023-15, an ordinance of the town of Rising Sun, Cecil County, Maryland, amending Chapter 9 titled Fiscal Year Annual Budget and Financial Reporting of the Code of Ordinances of the town of Rising Sun to include provisions for compensation of members of the Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, and other boards as may be established by the Board of Commissioners, and to repeal any and all other ordinances. So you skip down past the first couple boilerplate language. I go to the fourth whereas. The town has been compensating these board members using language found in Chapter 9 of the Town Code titled Fiscal Year Annual Budget and Financial Reporting, Article 10 titled Compensation of Mayor and Commissioners, which spells out how the mayor and commissioners are compensated for service to the town. Whereas the mayor and commissioners are compensated on a quarterly basis, and the town would like to compensate the various members of the appointed boards and commissions in a timely manner and based upon when the service to those boards is rendered. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the town commissioners of the town of Rising Sun, Cecil County, Maryland, and is hereby enacted and ordained by its authority that Article 10, Chapter 9 of the Town Code shall be modified as follows. Section 1, Article 10, titled Compensation for the Mayor and Commissioner, shall be amended as follows. The title of the article shall be deleted and replaced to read as Compensation of the Elected Body, Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, or any other board appointments as created by the Board of Commissioners. Amendment 2, a new section 9-1003 shall be created and shall read as follows. Section 9-1003, compensation for members of the Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, or other board-appointed members as determined by the Board of Commissioners. It goes on to state, members of the Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, or members of other boards created by the Board of Commissioners may receive a fee for attending any official open or closed meetings of their respective boards, or official and authorized meetings related to the transaction of business of their respective boards, or any other event specific to their respective boards and requiring their attendance and participation. Such compensation of appointed boards which boards that will be compensated shall be established by the Board of Commissioners and shall be set from time to time by resolution passed by the Board of Commissioners in the regular course of its business. In summary, what this is saying is if these members described have to go to training, they can get compensated for that. They can also get compensated for their gas, their time, and any other accommodations. If you remember, a couple months ago, we created a Code Enforcement Board of Appeals, And in that ordinance, we said that they could be compensated also. And we create a resolution stating that this section closes the loop between Chapter 2 and the resolution to make it consistent with the way we compensate people here. It was a little glitch in there. So that is the ordinance as it is submitted.
Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to accept ordinance number 2023-15 as read.
Well,
Second.
may I ask for a correction on that? I did not submit this as an emergency ordinance.
So it'll sit and we'll vote
It
on it
would
the next
sit.
meeting.
If you want to adopt it as an emergency ordinance, you would just make a motion to adopt this as an emergency ordinance and then go into accepting it. Doesn't matter to us.
I really don't see any difference between this month and next month. We're just upgrading.
We're closing a loop
Yeah.
in our code. is
So
all.
I will make let me re-amend my motion.
Yep.
I make a motion to have an emergency ordinance number 2023-15 to upgrade the ordinance that is presently existing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Just for clarification, this is how we do business already. Is that correct, Town
Yes,
Administrator?
it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Discussion on cannabis. Do you have that, Town Administrator?
So I think this is an important conversation to have in a public setting. Before people get the idea that we're saying, hey, you know what this town needs is a good cannabis storefront. There are certain things that are protected in land use law. And another one that can make people uncomfortable is adult entertainment. And I'm not comparing adult entertainment to cannabis. My point is that if someone has a legally operating business, in other words, they're not doing something illegal, you have to provide for that business in your community. And in the absence of having that allowed for, somebody can come in and operate that business in any zoning district in your town. So what I've joked to everyone, and Commissioner Warnick, you remember being on the Planning Commission, I used to always say, nobody sits around and says, you know what this town needs is a good adult entertainment. The law requires us, because it's a legal operating business, to provide for it. So unless we want it to pop up anywhere, we have to establish it in our zoning code, put whatever conditions on it we feel are necessary and legally permissible, and address it. Otherwise, somebody could come in and put that anywhere. And so the cannabis is sort of the same situation. The state legislature voted to allow the sale of cannabis, especially in storefronts. And so I'm under the impression that we don't necessarily want that to occur anywhere in our town. And we have the right under the law to start to talk about where that cannabis sales can take place. And so what I gave to you by email last night is an example ordinance that actually Commissioner Warnick gave to me of what they did in Bel Air. This would be covered in our zoning code. So when you think back to how we do zoning codes, you can create the language for the zoning code change, or the planning commission can create the language for the zoning change, but it formally has to be reviewed by the planning commission with a recommendation to the mayor and commissioners to adopt it. So what we would need to do is adopt a definition in our zoning code of what cannabis is. We would have to come up with a section in the code that describes what's going to be permissible and not, and then we would also have to update our table of permissible uses to talk about where those areas are going to be at. So basically what I'm asking you is, if you want to regulate this, Are you okay with me taking proposed ordinance language that the chief and I are working on to the planning commission and make a recommendation to you on how best to regulate the sale of cannabis in a storefront? So
Okay.
that's what the discussion is.
All right,
Obviously, as and I'm sorry,
go ahead, Dave.
I was gonna say, obviously, as the person that brought this ordinance from the town of Bel Air to Calvin, I would highly recommend that we take action on this, because I'm sure we don't necessarily want to have, there may be areas we don't want cannabis sold. There may be, for a variety of reasons, we may not want it in our downtown area. It may not meet the aesthetics that we're trying to do downtown. It may, so anyway, long and short of it, I think we want to consider this much like we have our adult entertainment district zoning code.
I agree with Commissioner Warnick. It's certainly something that I don't think I would want next to a daycare or, some sort of facility like that where, there is a place for it. It just may not be, for instance, next to a daycare or something of that nature.
Don't we already have the ordinance for vape shops, that type of business?
No.
What
Could
did
it-
we go through years ago then?
What,
Was it just adult?
no, what we went through is, if you remember, everybody got upset about the vape shop opening up, but there's nothing we could do about it because we did not address it in our code on where the vape shop could or couldn't go. When you're talking about right here on Main Street, we didn't have any language regulating that. So we're devoid of language if we want to regulate it.
And from my understanding, Town Administrator, the horse was already put before the cart back then, and it was already there and getting ready to be open before it could have been addressed
You're right.
beforehand. Is that correct?
Yes and no. First of all, they were not selling what at that time was an illegal substance. They were selling the paraphernalia in which to do it. So it probably would have been a stretch for us to even say that you can't sell those types of things. And that's the legal exercise we went through at that time.
I would just hate to see a business, I think this is something that we need to get in our code sooner rather than later, because I would hate to see a business open and then us introduce a code that may not allow them to operate there after they've already invested so much into opening that
Yeah,
business.
what was tricky, I think, about the previous shop was that it was actually, think of it more like they were selling artwork, right? Because without residue in it, it's not even paraphernalia, it's just simply glass artwork. And so you get into kind of a challenge there. In this case, I would put this more akin to, for a zoning and regulatory standpoint, more akin to alcohol.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want a liquor store necessarily on our main street between Rise and Grind and in the corner, or you wouldn't want a liquor store between, like replacing, say, the brewery or something like that. It's just for a lot of reasons, right? I mean, everything from traffic to, it's not the kind of retail, it's just not gonna draw into that area. So, would it be better in an area, like say, I mean, like a retail shop or something, like a shop, a strip mall or something like that? Maybe, I don't know, I think that's part of what we need to figure out, but
There's
I
a
think
place
we can-
for it, it's
Yeah.
just figuring out where that place is and making
Right.
sure that we have it codified.
Yep.
Okay, I think we're all in agreement
Oh,
that
yeah.
we'll move forward with it. And Calvin, I have, Dave, I forgot to tell you that I have a contact for Calvin at the Maryland Municipal League, because obviously a lot of municipalities are wrangling with this as well and introducing different types of language. So I reached out to the executive director, and she did give me a contact. Calvin, I'm going to pass that along to you.
Okay.
All right, moving forward into Resolution 2023-20, which is the fee schedule update regarding a PUD. Town Administrator, do you have that?
So, yes, I do. Let me grab a hold of this. So, if you recall over the last couple of months, we have made some very significant and serious changes to not only our land development code, but our fee structure to protect the town, unlike it was ever protected before, from what you can arguably say may have been bad development in the past. And so we've made a lot of changes in the code. And one of the things we have also done is to make sure that any fees that are incurred by the town to review these land development projects do not end up being borne by the taxpayers of Rising Sun. So we created some very comprehensive escrow fees that have to be paid up front to offset any legal review, engineering review, and advertisement that needs to be done in these processes. Well, prior to my arrival, I don't know how long this has been in the code, but there is a concept in land development called, the acronym is a PUD, and it's a planned unit development. And as the town attorney has told us at a recent training, a lot of communities don't call it a planned unit development anymore because the idea of a planned unit development really didn't take hold like people thought, and it was, I'm gonna use the word, a little cattywampus in zoning, and that the more accurate definition of what is actually taking place is something that people might refer to as clustering here. And so it's a process in which is available to a property owner to build under a PUD in our code, but it's sort of like a clustering concept. Well, in our existing fee schedule, we charged $8,000 for a PUD application, which is a very steep expense. Now, I wasn't here to know when they wrote that fee. I'm assuming it might have been that high to offset any legal expenses or engineering fees related to it. But since we streamlined the process and created escrow fees of upwards of $10,000 before a project is reviewed, there's no reason to charge $8,000, but we could probably be legally challenged in court on why we are charging $8,000 in addition to covering all the other expenses through an escrow fund. So this resolution is trying to, quite frankly, cover us from a little legal exposure by reducing the PUD fee from $8,000 to $250, which treats it as more or less like an application for a variance or a special exception. And it covers some of the miscellaneous expenses, the review time of Judy and her folks, you know, getting it into the system and handling it, and some printing, but the escrow fees would cover all the other expenses. So this is basically a resolution suggesting that the fee schedule be amended to reduce the PUD fee from $8,000 to $250. And if that is something that you're amicable to, I can read that into the minutes.
Well, first, let me, after our discussion this morning, or this afternoon, I went back and I remember when we put this in.
Okay,
I'm going to say it was 2005, 2006,
okay,
when the original Knutson property was going to be a PUD development.
right,
I believe that's before your time,
yes,
okay? They did that in an effort to try to gain a little more control over what was going to happen, okay? It was during that time period where we were transitioning.
okay,
We don't need that anymore because we have updated our fee schedules and everything, that we no longer have the animosity between developer and town. So that's just kind of the background on how we got to that $8,000.
Can you go ahead and read it into the record?
sure. So this is Resolution 2023-20, titled Fee Schedule Amendment, Fees Related to Land Development and specifically the review of planned unit developments. The boilerplate at the beginning, first two I'm going to skip. The third, whereas Chapter 9, titled Finance, Taxation, Business, and Trade of the Town's Code of Ordinances contains Article 6, titled Establishment of a Fee Schedule, which provides for the creation of a town fee schedule established by resolution and amended from time to time by the mayor and commissioners. Whereas the town's current fee schedule contains Section 5, titled Annexation, Stormwater Management, Land Development, and Zoning Fees, which provides for the establishment of fees associated with the development of land to include Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals application fees, advertisement, legal review, engineering review, and general plan review. And whereas Section C, titled Land Development, Subnote 6, titled Planned Unit Development, PUD, currently lists the application fee for this process to be $8,000. And whereas the town recently incorporated provisions in the fee schedule to collect escrow fees from applicants for the purpose of offsetting any expenses borne by the town in the process of reviewing and approving such land development applications. And whereas the fees that the town collects are supposed to be reflective of the town's expenses within reason. And whereas given the incorporation of such escrow fees to offset said expenses, continuing to charge $8,000 for a planned unit development is not commensurate with the town's expenses. Therefore, be it enacted and resolved that the current $8,000 planned unit development fee shall be reduced from $8,000 to $250 and shall be reflected in a new fee schedule titled 2023 Town of Rising Sun Fee Schedule, adopted 11/14/2023.
Can I get a motion to approve Resolution 2023-20?
Make a motion to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Thank you, Town Administrator. Citizens' input tonight. Would anyone like to speak?
Mr. Mayor, it looks like we have a scout with us tonight.
Are you here for one of your badges?
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sitting through it. Hopefully we don't bore you to death. All right, moving forward into staff reports. Town Administrator.
Yeah, I have a couple items I want to update you on. Judy will bring you up to speed on the actual paving of Mount Street, but I think there's an opportunity here to reach out to the residents about how this all fits together here. So the long-range plans for Mount Street and why we did not pave all of Mount Street go back to the fact that the town was awarded a grant to extend broadband internet out to the Route 1 corridor, but more importantly, we received some money in order to run a much larger water line down Mount Street and connect it to the Chester water line on Walnut Street, which would basically create a redundancy from a fire flow standpoint. And in a very elementary view of looking at it, if you were to take Mount Street and consider that as dividing the town in half, the best part of our Chester water flow from a fire flow standpoint is on the east side of the town, because that's where the Chester water line comes up. And any water that goes into the west side of town is fed from the east side of town. But for all intents and purposes, that water grid, if you will, when it dead ends on Mount Street, that's it. What we're basically going to be doing is taking that portion of the grid and connecting it to the main trunk line. So we will not only have essentially equal flow throughout the community and better capacity for our fire department in the event of a fire, but it's another effort to try to cut down on brown water that pops up in our community because our water lines are very old and they're very small. And so having redundancy in the water system will enable those systems to clean themselves out more, as opposed to that water just essentially sitting in a dead-end area, which is not the only reason for the brown water, but it is one of the major contributors to why we get brown water. And so I wanted to update you on why we didn't pave all of Mount Street, because it would have cost us about $380 to $400 some odd thousand to do that complete repaving. And when we move forward with the new water line, we would have essentially dug up that $380,000 to a large degree, and then would have had to basically repave and fix that all over again. Now, we've been talking about this grant since 2021. But one of the residual effects of COVID is how it impacted the supply chains and inflation. So when we put our grant application together, it was estimated that the project would cost about $1.3 million. We only got one bid price back, and it was $2.5 million. So we decided to suspend the waterline project. But what I have asked KCI to do, because I think we're to the point now where come this spring, we need to decide once and for all what we're going to do with this project. Bear in mind, the one downside would be that if we don't go forward with the project, we would have to return the grant money that we spent for the engineering design back to the state. But hypothetically, we could lose a little bit of favorable status with the state, because when you get grants, anyone who's really familiar with the grants like we are, they always say this needs to be shovel ready. So when we say it's shovel ready and then turn around and say, oh wow, we can't do the project, that can have a ripple effect through other grants that we do. So we're gonna get updated pricing. I've been meeting with KCI to find new ways to do the water line in a manner that can be more economical. So I'm hoping maybe around January, February, that I'm coming back to you folks with a revised project. At that time, you can make the decision on how to handle Mount Street. The other question that I wanted to answer, because the mayor has been asked this, basically is an update on the water line project on Ryan Drive. We had the water main break. Our folks in Judy's world went out and they did a patch on that area that was subject. But anyone who remembers the horrific thing we went through in 2014, that development is a very questionable development that was done back in the late 1990s. And if you recall, we had a water main break up in the cul-de-sac at the end, which led to, within like a 48-hour period, of about 14 other service connections to rupture from the main line. And that was a byproduct of how the developer put the road in and some corners that were cut. It was a byproduct of the piping that was used in there. And so we ended up spending maybe close to $750,000 making that repair up there. But what we did was, before we came in and paved it, we replaced all the service connections. We put new pipe in that area because we didn't want to spend $200,000-300,000 repaving the road just to have that Achilles heel pop up again and rupture, and we again waste a lot of money in street repaving. So in this particular water main break, you can see evidence of the issues with the way the road was built, because anyone who's been at a water main break will realize that it'll pop up out of the ground and you might get a 12 by 12 area of damage after you're done digging down to the pipe. In this particular case, the water clearly ran several hundred feet underneath the pavement and actually took large swaths of pavement and lifted it and moved it. So in order to repair that properly, we're probably looking at maybe a $200-300 paving job in the future to get that all done right. But we don't know the quality of the ground underneath it because we have evidence from past issues that say that the ground was bad. So we might need to rebuild that. And then we don't know the condition of the water pipe. So what we did is we took the water pipe out and we cut it into what are called coupons, and we sent it to an independent laboratory to do an evaluation of the pipe, which I've not received the results yet, that will tell us, is this pipe still good? And when you think about ductile iron pipe typically has a shelf life of 60 years. And so a community will start to look at redoing ductile iron pipe about every 60 to 70 years. This was PVC pipe. Not only was it PVC pipe, it was done back in the 90s when PVC pipe was first introduced as a reliable source. Well, just like anything else, things have changed with PVC pipe. So any of the advancements that have been made in PVC pipe today might not exist in that old piece of PVC pipe that's every bit of 40 to 50 years old now. So before we end up spending a lot of money paving over that road, one, we wanted to let it settle through the winter, see what kind of damage was done as a result of all that water running down, because again, we don't want to pave and then have it collapse again, and then we want to get a determination of what we need to do with the water line. So my point to you is probably around January, February, again, I'm going to be coming back to you with a proposal on how to fix that and the dollar amount that will be needed in that. So I wanted to let everybody out there know that that's the reason why we're dealing with it the way we are, because we don't want to waste taxpayers' money by jumping prematurely to make a repair. A couple other things that I wanted to bring to your attention, and let me back up and say, the work that we did up there to patch it, Judy and her group are going to continue to monitor that. And so anything that pops up in that little area, we will be quick to react to and make sure that it's drivable and not a nuisance for our residents. The other thing I wanted to update you on is that a couple months ago, I met with representatives from Verizon that were looking to put in a Verizon antenna on our water tower. I don't know about you, but a lot of people are talking about a significant change in the Verizon signal in the area and the quality of it and how well the phones are operating. Maybe that's the reason why Verizon wanted to get on our tower, but I would have expected to hear a response from them by now, and I haven't. So they haven't come back and said they've changed their mind, but it's still hanging out there. So I wanted to give you the update on where we're at with the antenna process. That's going to involve them figuring out whether or not they want to bolt into the side of the water tower, go on the rail that's up there. It's something that I've been working with Jay in a cell phone agreement to make sure we're covered with that, make sure that that stuff is all properly reviewed and signed off by the engineers, and that we don't have any problems with what they do or what they propose to do. So we're a long way from figuring out what it is they want to do. I just wanted to keep you folks in the loop that they are entertaining the idea of putting a tower. If you remember a couple months ago, we went into a joint program with Charlestown, Elkton, and Port Deposit in Northeast on a circuit rider for a grant writer. We have that grant writer. We get this individual for about 10 hours a week. We have already started steering her in the right direction of some potential grants. I'm setting up a meeting with her to meet with the mayor and the police chief to address some initiatives that the mayor has wanted to do, like community arts in spaces, and then also things like video surveillance at the park. this is not a grant writer that at this time is going to be able to go out and write multi-million-dollar grants for sewer plants. This is your low-lying $10,000 grant, $50,000, $100,000 grant. So it's our foray into the world of having an official grant writer here. So I wanted to keep you up to date on that. Another grant that we applied for that you've heard me talk about in the past is we have the issue of at some point in time, we're going to have to decommission our lagoon as a byproduct of the wastewater treatment plant. And then the other thing we have to do is deal with that unfunded mandate from the states regarding the MS4, or reducing our nutrient footprint by 20%. Right now, the total estimated value of both of those projects is about $5.5 million to do. So we applied for some grant money from FEMA, but we didn't get awarded that grant, so we've dropped back and we have submitted some other grant opportunities, because one way or the other, we really need to come up with $5.5 million. So behind the scenes, there's a lot of effort to apply for grants to try to get that expense covered. So I wanted to update you on that. Another grant that we did get was through Will Mapco, which is pretty exciting because Will Mapco has never really had necessarily the need to come into this area, because Will Mapco sort of tends to deal with mass transportation, and we don't have a train and we don't have bus service here. But we were able to put a grant application together that would look at traffic patterns in the community and try to give us resources that as we go through the land development process, we can speak to developers in a better, more educated position of what we could do in those areas. So myself and the town engineer will be meeting with a Will Mapco representative next week. It's a third-party entity that's going to start to perform the study to give us results. So we did get that grant. The other thing I wanted to get out there is the Planning Commission will be doing a tour this Saturday of various developments, not only in the town of Rising Sun, but some other developments beyond the town of Rising Sun, to give some of our board members that have never really had to deal with the land development process an opportunity to see what other developments look like, what our developments look like, and how we can improve upon the decision making. So the chief and I are going to be going up to pick up a van, and we're going to take them on a tour of the area this Saturday. The last thing I have, and this is something that the mayor had asked me to address previously, at the last meeting, we passed an ordinance about street parking, and it created a lot of fervor out there because there was sort of a misunderstanding of what we were doing. This street parking ordinance is in response to some people having no regard for other vehicles being able to pass on the road, given the way they decide to park their vehicle. And so we have some developments where the streets are narrow, and we have people that are parking too far off the curb so that other residents can't get by. But more importantly, we've had numerous occasions where emergency services can't get an ambulance down the street and can't get a fire truck down the street. So all we were doing was creating the mechanism for the police department to be able to go in and ticket those entities that do that. This is not a sweeping code that's changing parking throughout the community. It's just to address an issue we have with bad parking. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Town Administrator. Chief Peterson.
I've given you the police blotter. As you see, there is no significant trends there. We handle in the neighborhood of 250 calls within the last 2 weeks, and that's about the standard. What I would like to say is, we're going into the holiday shopping season. For you, all those out and about, one, be aware of the pedestrian traffic and the heavy traffic that'll be coming through town because a lot of people patronize the town center. And second, while you're there, be mindful of your surroundings. Don't make yourself a victim. Don't leave your freshly purchased items visible in your vehicle so that an opportunist thief can come along and take them. Second, the Christmas extravaganza is on December 9th. That contains the tree lighting, which will cause a section of the roadway in town to be closed for the tree lighting. And it also has the tractor parade, which was a great success last year. So be mindful of all the detours and delays that will occur on that date. And again, the pedestrian traffic that we have in the dark on those dates. Again, be mindful of that, and that's all I have for a report unless there's a question.
Chief, did you want to mention Officer Moore?
I can. The Cecil County Chamber of Commerce held their annual law enforcement appreciation, and this year's nominee from the department was Officer Stephen Moore. As you are aware, Stephen's in his first year of law enforcement and has done a phenomenal job since he's been on the street. Some people have a knack for law enforcement, and other people have to work real hard at it. Stephen is a natural. It seems that he can sit quietly somewhere, and if something's going to happen, it'll happen in front of him. So, you know, he's natural. It's there. He's taken to the job, and he's doing a great job at it.
Thank you, Chief. Assistant Town Administrator.
Well, I'm going to pick up on just a couple of things. If you have any questions about the repair work that was done on Mount Street, you can ask. The only thing we did there was we milled 160 by 14 swap and put down 2 inches of blacktop, and it looks good. I think it'll get it through, and Calvin covered the rest of it with that. Chief, I was going to talk about the winter extravaganza, but you did a great job. Toys for Tots, I will mention that because we have a Toys for Tots box in the foyer area. So if you're out and about shopping like we were talking, and you want to pick up something for the less fortunate, I'd just drop it off downstairs. We are working to refurbish the train that was down at Diddy Park. We're going to use a lot of that in our float. So we're working on that. That's a project we're adding to what we're working on.
And the float is for the Cecil County Christmas Parade, correct?
It's for the Northeast Parade, yes.
What date is that?
It's
That
the
is
first
second-
Saturday in
second.
December.
December,
Something like that.
yeah,
I believe it's the second.
it's the second.
Okay.
And then what you have is something that I wanted to put together for you to start taking home with you after the meeting. You have in your folder, you have a check register, up to date, shows any outstanding checks, shows all the checks that we've written and what they were for. You have a statement of cash flow by operating fund. You have a statement of revenue and expenditures by operating fund, budget versus actual by operating fund. And then as special note, all bank reconciliations for October 2023 are complete and no issues to report. Electronic copies are available on the network and hard copies are available at my desk. And other than that, that's all that's worthwhile to mention today.
Thank you, Judy. Do we have the town attorney?
Yeah, let me
Good
bring him
evening,
up.
everybody.
Good evening, Jay.
A list of things that we're going to talk about in our administrative session, so I will save my time for that, but we have several things to talk about then.
All right, thank you, Jay. Moving forward into the mayor's report. My report is pretty brief. A few events I wanted to cover. We had a great Maryland 5-star the chief and I attended along with Commissioner Kleiner. We spent a good bit of time with the Lieutenant Governor, Ronna Miller, who the chief and I have gotten to know pretty personally. It was a great event, and a lot of folks came out this year. The town administrator also attended with us as well. We also had a wonderful spooktacular. I want to say a huge shout out to Juanita and to Judy and to our entire team, including Public Works and our police department, for all their hard work on another fantastic fall spooktacular. As you've seen, we're honoring our veterans with hometown banners. They went up before Veterans Day. and they honor veterans throughout our community. If you are interested in being added to the next list of banners, reach out to Town Hall, or you can find the form on our website to fill out to be eligible for our next round of hometown banners. Judy?
Oh, I just realized there was, when you started talking about that, about reaching out, it reminded me that during the holiday season, we had talked about helping the town with recycle. And we have set the slotted box dumpster outside at 231 East Main Street. It's for when you're getting all your orders for the holidays, you can break your boxes down and go put them in the slotted box. If you have a lot of recycle that you need, that you can't put into that box, and you want to bring it down to have us take care of it for you, all you need to do is call Town Hall. We will make an appointment for you, and we can actually help you then with extra recycle during this holiday period. We're going to do that up until the end of January.
Thank you, Judy. Last but not least, I was recently appointed by the Comptroller of Maryland to the Local Government Advisory Council. We had our first meeting. It was a great event, and I was recently appointed as the second vice president for the Cecil Hartford chapter of the Maryland Municipal League. I will be serving for the remainder of that term. Go ahead.
Correct you, Mayor, that would be District Vice President.
District Vice President, thank you. That is the end of my report. Moving forward into Commissioner reports. Commissioner Braun.
The Board of Zoning Appeals met on Wednesday, October 25, to hear the Mathis tire case that was previously continued. The Board of Zoning Appeals approved the special exception to allow the tire center to operate in the limited commercial zoning district, approved the variance for the landscape buffer, but tabled the remaining two variances for the stream encroachment and wetlands buffer setback. The Planning Commission met on Monday, November 6th, and held a training session with the town attorney on open space requirements and conditions and the legal aspects of planned unit development, or PUDs. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Braun. Commissioner Kleiner.
Yeah, I wanted to just mention that we had honored Chris George with a retirement party recently, and just wanted to give my thanks to him. I know we all thank him for his many hats and many years of service, and we're very glad that he's still with us part-time. So that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Kleiner. Commissioner Pearson.
Okay, I also want to echo what Commissioner Kleiner said about Chris George. He has been a true asset over the years to this community in many, many ways that people don't even realize that he was once a police officer here. The second part of my report, it's school bus time. It is against the law to go past a stopped school bus. People are doing it in Cecil County so much that we even made the evening news. Okay? Just a reminder, if a school bus is stopped and it has its flashing lights on, its arm out that says stop, or the yellow arm that would give protection to children, you must stop. It is against the law, and you do get a considerable ticket. The example that was on TV tonight, the young man came very close to being run over by a speeding car, not just a car that wasn't paying attention, but by a speeding car. This is designed to protect our children. Pay attention. You can't be in that much of a hurry. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Pearson. Commissioner Warnick.
I have no comments, ma'am.
All right, thank you. You can see the town administrator. Do you want to cover the Board of Zoning Appeals and Planning Commission? Or do we just want to say that it's on the agenda?
Yeah, it's on the agenda, and it lists that we're doing the driving tour this Saturday.
All right, perfect. Upcoming town events, obviously on Saturday, December the 9th, we are so excited for our winter extravaganza. There will be ice skating in Main Square, as well as carriage rides and other events that we're currently working on. You see the upcoming town holidays and trash, recycling, and yard waste schedule as well as town holidays. Is there anything else to come before the board this evening? Hearing none, could I get a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.